So for you to be your fullest self, you need other people to draw you out.
That is powerful. What a
truth. You know?
Very good.
So you'll never fully discover yourself until other people are able to draw you out, and then you're able to draw other people out. Again, belonging, being known, being valued, and we need each other. So it's a powerful concept.
Welcome. I am so excited because today we're going to have a conversation with my friend Christian Mungai, and he just published his book, People Are the Wealth, an African Vision for People-Focused Missional Christian Life. Now, this might sound like a church book, but let me tell you, although, of course, if you are a church leader, you want to buy this book, you want to read this book, you want to apply this book. But in the context of our journey, we share conversation. This book reminds us how important relationships are. And so Christian lives this out. We've had how long have we known each other?
Since 2007.
Yeah, okay.
18 years.
The math, right? Quite a long time. And I've seen you live this. This is not, I know you are applying this to missions in the church, which is so important because I've also seen how Mariners has been transformed by this truth, but also I've seen how you live it.
Yeah.
This isn't just a thing you practice at church. So welcome.
Thank you.
Both Kayleigh and I are so thrilled to have you.
You guys. You guys look so nice in that mother-daughter duo.
Yeah. We're sitting kind of far from each other. Hi, Kayleigh.
It's very fun.
Oh, I also want to remind our listeners, too, that if you're watching us on YouTube, this is your first time ever watching us, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, maybe even comment down below so you can stay up to date. We do post these podcasts on YouTube before they go anywhere else. So if you want to be in the know and see these podcasts, make sure to do so. But on top of that, we're a ministry, and this is basically a free way for you to be able to donate to us without ever having to open up your wallet. It helps us know that the content we're providing is content you want to keep seeing. So please make sure to do that before you go or at any time during this podcast. And now I'm so excited to talk to Christian.
Thank you.
So, okay. Give us the gist of the book. Obviously, I read it. Kayleigh read it. But I mean, I want to hear from you. Like, what is this book about?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I think if I was to summarize the book in one way, I would say that a lot of us gain our self-worth from our net worth. And that could be money, it could be other things, you know. But what I contend in this book is that once you know your self-worth, it will lead you to growing new networks that actually determines your net worth. So your self-worth, knowing about who you are, how uniquely you've been created, the inherent dignity that you have, then leads you to then do that with other people. And the more people you get to understand their net worth, the more you realize their self-worth, then it creates this network that determines your net worth. So for me, it starts with you understanding who are you. You're created in the image of God, you're distinct. But being distinct does not mean being disconnected. In fact, the more distinct you realize you are, the more you want to engage with other unique people, because from each and every person that you interact with, you're seeing the face of God. And so the more people you have across your world or your life, you realize that you're seeing a glimpse of God that you'd have never gotten to get from anybody else. So for you to even start getting a glimpse of who God is, you have to understand the image bearer in the 8 billion people in the world.
I love that.
So that's a gist of it. Understand who you are uniquely.
Yeah.
And as you understand who you are uniquely, then engage with other people who are unique. And then together you see a bigger picture of the gospel, or you get to see a bigger picture of our Father.
It's so interesting how we can be kind of myopic in our little cultural bubble, whatever that looks like, and not understand what we're missing out.
Yeah.
You know, this breadth of unique personalities, unique cultural backgrounds, or the way in which God works with people until we get out of this bubble we're in.
Yeah.
And, you know, for us, when we met you, I think we met you in Kenya. Or did we meet you here?
We met here, and then we went to
Kenya. So we went to Kenya, and you went with us on this trip.
Yeah.
Right? We went to Uganda and
2008.
to Kenya, and we got to watch you in your element.
Yeah.
Like, not just in the element being that you were in Africa, of course, this is where you're from, but also in this heart that you have towards connecting people from
Yes.
different backgrounds and then watching them discover, like, look how beautiful it is when we come together from different backgrounds
Yeah.
and get to see this picture of God.
Well, actually, hold on. We know, and anyone in Orange County probably knows a bit about Christian, but a lot of our listeners may not know. Would you share just
fair.
like a little bit about you, about how you came
Back
here,
up.
and yeah,
Good point, Kayleigh.
Back up.
tell about how about
right.
your image bearerness.
So born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya, on the east side of Nairobi, which is a really difficult, challenging place. But then I went to school on the west side of the country, and we can share about that later. But then born to a Christian family, my dad being a Presbyterian tent-making minister. And then I went to university in India. So I was sent on a one-way ticket, one term's fees to India to go and study law against my will. I never wanted to become a lawyer, but my dad thought I'm too opinionated. I run my mouth a lot. I should become a lawyer. So they sent me to India by faith. And then I was there for 5 years. And then upon graduation, came back home, gave them their law degree and tell, here's your law degree. Now let me go and do what I want to do, which I wanted to become an actor.
An actor.
So I came to America as an international student to pursue law, but also to try my hand at acting. And very quickly, I discovered that our law systems are very different. They could not be more polar opposite. Commonwealth law, federal law, very different. And so I struggled, and I ended up struggling, actually ended up in a homeless shelter in LA through, difficult stuff and difficult circumstances. I talk about it in the book a little bit. But then through a connection with childhood friends, during the time I was in a really low point, still at the homeless shelter, I had about a Kenyan gathering in Pomona, California. So I show up, and lo and behold, 3 of my childhood buddies are there. Kanji Mbogwa,
The chances.
Kaima Mwiti and Moira Kero. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, I had known these people when we were young. Kind of like our life group.
Yes.
Like we had grown up like that. With the kids had grown up like that. And now we're in America together. And so we started just hanging out together. Then we formed a band. And the band morphed into a nonprofit. Then through that, I came and played at Miners, and the rest is history. Yeah. So that's how I found my way here as an international student, and then forming this nonprofit organization that became a band. And that band, then led us to Miners. And then I came to Miners Church, and that's how we met. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember this, when I met my now wife, Delta, I was going to have a bachelor party. And guess who hosted it? You and Jim hosted it at your home. And it was still one of my most memorable moments in my life because I was surrounded by people from Kenya, people from America, and my worlds had collided all of a sudden. So I live in between those worlds, East and West.
Yeah.
India and Africa, America, US, and now the global world. So good question. I hope that answers your...
It does. Well, and I loved reading your story in here. I mean, I know a lot about you and I feel like we've spent great time together, but there was so much of this story that I had no idea about. And I was like, wow, like just the diversity in your life, truly. And like the different experiences and places to go truly from Africa to India to LA, where you were in a homeless shelter, to now living in Orange County. Like what diametrically opposed places all of those are, right? And so
Absolutely.
So cool to kind of see and experience. And I do think it opens up such a beautiful page to how you ended up in this position and to your heart posture, which is towards global ministries and connecting people and everything that you've done through this book. So it was awesome.
Very true. I've always said that you're a missionary from Kenya in Orange County.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
truly.
You're here as a missionary.
I agree.
Right? And this book is sort of the outcome of that because you brought a thinking to Mariners Church, the way Mariners Church does outreach. But for that matter, not just outreach as a church project or program, but more importantly, like how we view people of another country. Everyone I don't say everyone, but many people, and maybe I did too, we would say something like, oh, God, send me anywhere, but not to Africa. I don't know, I mean, not like the bugs or something. There's always this sort of idea of what Africa is like, and the pictures of the starving children with the flies in their eyes, and you think it's horrible. And then here we meet you, and you're this joyful, man who celebrates educated, right? And you give us a picture of like, hey, it's not all like that.
No.
Of course there is. Just like here in Santa Ana, we have people who live in poverty, or in Atlanta and other parts of the U.S.,
Yeah.
we have poverty. We also have a great deal of things to celebrate. And we were not celebrating what was good in Africa, and particularly in Kenya and Uganda and all the countries that you work with.
At Trokia Ministries, our goal is to help you strengthen your relationship with God and grow in your character-led leadership. We have courses just for those things. Our course, Character-Led Leadership, is all about how to develop your character, whether in your workplace, whether in your church life, or in your home life. The course is completely free to you. All you have to do is head on over to our website to get more information. We also have our Uncharted course. Our Uncharted course is a part of Inés's book, Uncharted, Navigating Your Unique Journey of Faith. And that course follows along video instruction to help you either do the study guide with someone else or on your own. You can find more information about our courses at trokia.org.
We weren't celebrating that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a danger of having a single story or a single narrative about
Any culture.
Any culture.
Yes, true.
So, you look at Africa and and that's what led us to even being a band, because we said we have something to offer.
Yeah.
And what we had to offer was music. Music was unique. It was distinct. But when plated well, it can actually be relevant across the U.S. And so that's what we started doing. We're using what we have, not what we don't have. Mm-hmm. And through that, we're telling the stories of, here's the Africa you do not know. Here's Africa you know. We show a picture of kids with distended bellies, cholera, disease, lack of education and that. That's what the picture people know. What you don't know is a vibrant people, a people who have so much faith, so much joy, who have got such deep resilience. And I'm going like, you're missing out on the fuller picture because you've seen. Now, those two things are true. There's deep abject poverty, but there's incredible beauty that you miss out. Just in the same way, whenever you look at America, from us who are looking outside from and look at America, what do you see? What's the biggest export America has? Hollywood.
Yeah.
So we think all of America is Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you're going like, okay, if that's your export, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But in America, you've got all these differences and diversities that are beautiful, and it's also troubled. It's kind of like Jerusalem. Jerusalem was deeply blessed, but it was also deeply troubled. You have that everywhere. And I think as we get more into proximity with each other, we see how much we are alike, than we are different, So it's a beautiful journey. My life is my message.
I love that. That's true. And you live it out.
Yeah.
You truly live it out.
Yeah.
I was so inspired by the story of your grandmother.
Yeah.
You said barefoot, like not the person that people would, when they showed up at Kenya, and they were like, let's go speak to the wisest person. And I wouldn't pick her.
No.
And yet she had this incredible wisdom to share.
Yeah.
And it really challenged me, because we do go to places and we think we're there to help people. We come with all our solutions, and we really kind of insult them.
Yeah.
To be honest. I remember doing mission trips before you and I met. We were doing quite a few mission trips with Free Wilshire Mission.
Yeah.
A lot to Peru and Chile and such. And where I started to realize after, I don't know, the third trip, maybe it didn't hit me right away, but by the third trip, it was slapping me in the face.
Yeah.
And that was, we think we're coming here to save the world.
No.
We ain't.
Yeah.
We ain't. We have much to learn.
Yeah.
And where it really hit us is when we entered a man's house. We brought him a wheelchair, and the minute we entered his house, it's a tiny little house. He'd been sleeping on that mattress for who knows how long because he couldn't get up. He started worshiping and singing, and our group fell apart.
Yep.
Everyone was crying so much they had to actually get out of the house and kind of pull themselves together.
Beautiful.
Because they realized, I don't worship like that.
No, exactly.
Like, what does this man know of worship when he's laying in the bed that's dirty because he's been sleeping in it, not been moved for a while, so you could imagine what that was like.
Yeah.
And he was worshiping and thanking God. I was so happy to see us. It was like, where does he get his happiness from? We have to learn about this.
Yeah. We have to learn that posture of entering a culture curiously versus judgmentally.
Yes.
And first of all, the story about my grandmother would have not come about if I hadn't met with you before during my writing. So I give you my, proposal.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you say, I like it, but I don't hear your voice. I don't hear your voice in the beginning. And I go like, oh. So I had kind of buried that story to somewhere else. And you tell me, I don't hear you from the beginning. And I thought, what better way than to tell about my story of my grandmother, than also borrowing from your book, Uncharted, when you talked about your abuelita.
Yeah.
So it kind of just like dovetails. So thank you for that. And that's why I say, our wealth is people, because if you don't have that resource, I'm not able to bring out that story in the way you brought it out. So it's my story, but it took you to call it out of me.
Wow.
You see how much that you're part of my wealth, because you're bringing out even what I don't even know that I have.
Oh, wow.
So thank you for that. But that's exactly right. My grandma refused to wear shoes. She literally said, no, I don't need shoes. And like, why? She says, why are you trying to give me the comforts of this world that do not comfort? I want to walk on the dust that I was created from, so that I can know I'm going back to dust.
Wow.
I've been to seminary. I've studied books. I have never read that from any theologian.
No.
So true.
And now people are talking about how important it is to walk on dirt. Your grandma knew.
Grandma was ahead of time.
Yeah,
Is that the kosher thing now? Is that the
She
cool
knew.
thing?
But I love the theological
Isn't it?
lens through which she was making that choice. That's beautiful. That's, like you said, totally.
She's not
huge
a
wisdom.
non-theologian.
Yeah.
Not amazing. So
Yeah.
those things we miss out on just by entering a place judgmentally, because the first thing you see, oh, she has no shoes, let's give you shoes.
Exactly. When I read that, it was like, oh, ooh, ow, ow. I've literally traveled the world with bags full of shoes.
I know.
Looking for people without shoes to
I
put shoes
know.
on. I'm never asking.
Yeah.
Like, maybe
What do they know?
maybe they want
Yeah.
to walk without
Yeah.
shoes. There's a reason.
It's beautiful.
So there's actually a quote. Us having this conversation about your grandmother actually reminded me of this quote that you have in your book. It says, "What if we started looking at someone like my grandma as first and foremost a bearer of God's image, rather than as merely a barefoot, illiterate, elderly African woman? What if instead of trying to meet her perceived needs from the get-go, we first seek to know her and to call forth what God has innately placed in her?"
Absolutely.
And I loved that quote so much. I mean, it hit me so hard when I read it. And I actually am curious, like, you probably do this throughout the course of the book, so maybe don't give all of the information,
Yes.
but then help the viewer or listener today know, like, well, how do we accomplish that? How do we first meet them there instead of going into, the perceived need first?
Yeah. I think the way that I think about it is this, is that usually when we go into the missions world and the mission circles, there's two things that we go after. And some people do either well, most people don't do both well. So the first one is a Great Commission, Matthew 28, go and make disciples of all nations. So that's a vanguard of going around missions. So that's what we think about. And some people are gung-ho about that. They hold everything on that. Some people say, hey, let the Great Commission be embodied by the Great Commandment. Love people, serve people. So you've got these two, so you've got the Great Commission and the Great Commandment, Matthew 25, Matthew 28. What I'm contending in this book is actually there's a third spoke. And maybe we've started missions at the wrong place. We've started at the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. And while those two are important, and it's important to do both, some people are good at one or the other, but those are, I call them two wings of the same plane. Okay. But I think the body of the plane is a doctrine of the image of God. What holds those two together is that every human being is created inherent dignity, inherent worth. There's a God-likeness in every human being. So every person, every interaction you're engaging with God. Some people, like you, as I'm looking at you, I'm seeing the image of God. It's very clear. Beto has the image of God in him. It's very clear. But some people, you might have to dig a little deeper because there's a reason why God created them and why they're in this world. So our heart and our posture should be going around looking at what is that God likeness in every human being. And you'll find it in my grandma. You'll find it in the captain of the airline or airplane that you're sitting on. You'll find it at a manager in a hotel. And those are the conversations that we're trying to have, is where are we finding the image bearer in every human being? And it's irrespective of background, color, race, ethnicity, whatever it is, whatever divergent views you have, the beauty is knowing that every human being, you're interacting with God. In fact, C.S. Lewis says that in every interaction, we're helping people become more of their God-likeness, or we're moving them towards a horror that we can never imagine. And if you see every human being in their later glory, you'd be tempted to worship them. You know? So what is it? What did it take for you to worship another human being? Seeing God in them. And so that's the essence and that's the primacy of that. That's what I'm talking about. Saying, look at my grandma and think she has inherent dignity and worth. Why did God create her? And then as you start excavating it, as you start drawing up, you don't have to bring anything to her. It's already in her.
Yeah.
The image of God is already in you. I don't have to give you anything. I'm just discovering it. I'm excavating. That's why I think my mission statement in life is that I am a excavator of God's image in every human being
Oh, that's beautiful.
for the sake of bridge building. So that you can connect people with each other.
That's a shift because you used to call yourself a bridge builder all the time. And that felt, in my opinion, heavy and difficult because a bridge, what happens? People walk over a bridge.
Yeah, drive over a bridge.
But to be an excavator of the image of God in someone else, first of all of us can do that.
Absolutely.
All of us can do that. But it's a sense of adventure.
It is.
And, right, that feels very oh, that's interesting. I want to lean in.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah, and that means you're always on mission. If you're excavating, every interaction you have, just every time, you're always on mission. And that's why, I love that we put in the missional Christian life. But even for just life.
True.
Yeah.
Let's say you're not a Christian. Every Christian has three main desires. So any person that you go to has three main desires. We all have the longing to belong. We have the longing to be known and the longing to be valued. Okay, so
belong,
known, valued. So belonging is a longing for love.
Yes.
Because where you belong, you're loved.
Yes.
So we all have a longing for belonging. Whether that's family, community, and you get to be a part of identifying, where do I belong? Every time, do I belong here? Do I not? So we're always thinking about that. So we have that longing. Second longing is a longing to be known. But unfortunately, we feel like if we're fully known, we shall not be fully loved.
Right.
Okay? If I'm fully known, you cannot fully love me. So what do? We show people sides of us. But we have got this action where you're telling people, come close but stay far. We do this all the time. We want to be fully known and fully loved, But then there's also a sense and a longing for value, to add value. Do I add anything to this world? And unfortunately, a lot of times, if you're just receiving, just like the global world has been receiving, then you feel like I'm not valued. And if you're just giving, you feel superior.
Right.
So those are the juxtapositions that we have, and that's what we're trying to explore in this book of trying to understand how do we help people belong.
Yeah.
How do you help people be known, fully known, fully loved? And then how do you help people be valued? Meaning that there's an inherent value that you have that you can bring into my life that I'll never get anywhere else.
Yeah, that's beautiful. In the context of any relationship, not just the relationship in Christian missions, with someone in another country, that still applies,
it is.
Right? Because for example, I'm a grandparent and I love my grandkids, and Jim will say that I'm overly generous
with the grandbabies,
that I kind of lose it and go out of control.
Yeah, there's no limit to the love.
Yeah. It's out of love, but when you were sharing that, I'm thinking about okay, there is such a thing as giving so much that then my grandkids can't see how can I bless Nana?
Absolutely.
Right? How can I bless Nana?
Absolutely.
Because she's just pouring onto me and therefore I have nothing to give her.
Absolutely.
So it even challenges me in that sense of okay, I know they feel loved. I want to know them. I think they want me to know them, but maybe I'm not helping them feel valued because I'm not inviting them to give from what they have.
Yeah, you want them to have a sense of we did this together.
Yes.
It's a quintessential story about the elephant and the mouse. What did the mouse tell the elephant? We sure did shake that bridge.
Yeah.
The mouse did very little, but even that little counts.
Yeah.
And you want to celebrate that because you go the mouse had a great view. We shook that bridge.
Yeah.
But the elephant did a lot of the work. So it's that kind of a thing in saying, hey, there's some place, there's something, there's inherent value. And so that's why even in our relationships cannot be one-sided. They have to be mutual. They have to be reciprocal. Because even the person you're serving is giving you an opportunity to give.
True.
Even the person you're serving is giving you the blessing of being a blessing. Yeah. And so I tell my American friends, especially when you go to the global world, receive from the global world. because you're robbing them of the idea of them being able to, you think, oh, they have nothing, they shouldn't give me. No, receive it.
Yes.
Because in receiving them, you're giving them an opportunity to play a part. Just like you and your grandkids. You're going like, I want them to be able to say, I did that. I did that with grandma. It's most beautiful. It's powerful.
So good.
It kind of reminds me, it's really stuck in my head about that like parable, teach a man to fish, or give a man a fish and he'll have it for a day versus teach a man to fish and he'll never get hungry again, right? And it's this same idea in like, really, if you actually go into the story of like teaching a man to fish, it also is innately recognizing that need, but also meeting in relationship in addition to the need. And so I feel like that's kind of what this book really has a good reminder of, and a teaching opportunity of like, oh, this is so much more than just fixing the need, right? Like giving the fish or giving the wheelchair or teaching them the gospel, but instead it's like actually getting into relationship, getting to know this person that you're working with or learning from. And gosh, the amount of mission trips I've gone on in which I have learned so much more just from the experience, or God teaching me things, or people just in the way that they show up in joy and in sorrow and in presence that is so different than I would or have thought to. It's beautiful, but it does require looking past just what's this one purpose I came in expecting to do.
Yeah, and that's a holistic thinking.
Yeah.
And that's why the book is organized in those 4 ways. One is, let's start with the theological undergirding, because the theology undergirds everything. And it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or not. The theological arguments that I make are actually, everybody has to wrestle with it. Where did we come from? What's morality? What's morality? So it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. You have to grapple with some of the most existential questions of origin, questions of meaning, what's the meaning of life, questions of destiny, where are we going, questions of morality, what's good and wrong. So it doesn't matter. So the theology has to undergird that. So that's the first aspect of it, is saying, how do we undergird this idea of people of the world under a theological undergirding? And so we talk about that. But then it moves from that and says, okay, now that we've looked at the theology, let's look at our world. Yeah. What's philosophically what's happening? What are the global trends that are happening? And how do they inform even how we engage? And then it goes into postures. Then how do we show up? And then it goes into practice. Now, what does this really mean? So those are the 4 main story arcs of the book, but it's more complex than you actually think it to be. But we're trying to simplify it by saying, okay, here is the inherent dignity of the worth of every human being. But then that leads to your philosophy, leads to your posture, leads to your practice. So it's more complex than people want to.
Layered, right?
It's multi-layered, but it's holistic. That's why you're saying teach a man to fish. Yeah. You're saying, okay, why am I teaching a man to fish?
Yeah.
Well, because that person was given the ability to produce. They were given work, and they have to find a way to be productive from the beginning. So it's not just a good thing. Yeah. It's a God thing.
Yes. You know what I appreciate about the theology that you said, as you know, I teach the Image of God course.
Yes, you do.
And one of the important things that I learned is through that study is that every single person is created in the image of God. Not just the Christians.
Yes.
And when we think of missions, or even let's say in our own family context, let's say we have an uncle who's not a Christian, right? But they're asking questions and they're interested perhaps, or they're kind of coming around. We very quickly think of them as a project.
Yes.
And we're trying to we're trying to move this person to the finish line. Yes. We're trying to get the trophy.
To close the deal.
It's like we forgot this is an image bearer.
Yes.
And I think to remember that every person, if we are talking to our neighbor who's, say, a Hindu lady who is not a Christian, to look at her from the lens of being an image bearer,
Absolutely.
Which means there's something of God in her that can teach me something.
Yes.
And maybe through that conversation, in your book, you talk about your father and how he became a Christian, right? And the missionaries who came and saw people worshiping a mountain, and how they, through understanding what they were looking for, they were able to talk about the Christian,
Absolutely.
The God. In the same way, the conversation changes when you really listen.
Yeah.
And this is something you talk about in your book, this interconnectedness, that there's something they have to offer us that is probably just as valuable, maybe more valuable sometimes than what we think we're bringing to the relationship, right?
People are not objects of our
Yeah, they're not
programs.
projects.
You know, they're not projects. They're not objects. They're subjects.
Yeah.
A subject you study.
Yeah.
You get to engage with them. It's the idea between codependence and interdependence.
Oh, yes.
Codependence, you're saying, okay, my self-worth and everything I get, I'll need it from you. Interdependence is two whole people coming together and saying, let's make a new humanity, a new thing. But it's not this idea of, oh, I'm depending on you if I'm nothing without you. In codependence, you have fear, you have rejection, that's not healthy. Interdependence is saying we're two wholes, but we're coming in mutually, reciprocal. There's a giving and receiving.
Yes.
There's a taking and giving. It's not one way. It's both ways. And when we look at people like that, it becomes a much more holistic thing. So you've got, on one hand, you've got people in the Western world tend to be more independent. And there's some dangers with that, but there's also some beauty to that. Because personal responsibility is really huge. And we have to be personally responsible. So we cannot just throw away the independence as a whole. You've got to think about what are the healthy parts of independence. There's a part of personal responsibility, and the Bible calls us to personal responsibility. Right. So you've got that. On the other hand, you've got the African dependence. And there's some unhealthy parts about it, but there's also some very unhealthy parts. There's healthy and unhealthy parts about dependence, because dependence also means that you're dependent on God. In Kenya, we say you never know that God is all you need until you realize that God is all you've got.
Yeah.
And because of not having much, we rely on God wholeheartedly. People run to God first before they try and find solutions. You pray first, and then you start looking for solutions. Here we find our solutions and say, God, bless my solution. So there's healthy and unhealthy parts of dependence. But now you combine the two, you get interdependence.
That's good.
You get some personal responsibility, but you also go some dependency. And we don't have the whole picture. So what do? We need the Western brothers and sisters to help us show about personal responsibility. But also the Western brothers and sisters need some people from the global South to show them what it means to be dependent.
Yeah.
And then now you have a new humanity that is connected in relationship, which, again, from the doctrine of the image of God, community predates existence of the world. Before even creation was, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit dwelt together in harmony, in unity. In fact, if you read the creation story in Proverbs 8, it talks about how they were enjoying each other, they were loving each other. That's what they were doing before the world was created. That was God in the Godhead was actually engaging in community. Therefore, when we're created, he says, he created the sun, it's good. He created the moon, it's good. When it comes to creating man, and only when it comes to creating man, he says, let us create man in our image. God's community sense is only brought out when he creates human beings, because we're created in the image of a God who's a community. And therefore, we shall not be our fullest self until we're a we, not a me.
Yes.
So that concept is what we're trying to try and get from that doctrine of the image of God. Is saying the image of God is unique, but it's also a we community. So we are better off as we, not me.
Yeah.
And therefore, how do we get to engage with each other? And the more diverse, the more distinct, the more intergenerational, the more multicultural, the more multi-ethnic, the more multi-sectoral, the better you are, because you're getting a fuller picture of the wholeness of who God is.
That's so good.
Yeah.
We Jim and I went to Lausanne in 2010. And it was a global gathering of leaders from all over the world.
Yeah.
And we worshipped. Oh, my goodness.
Isn't
to
it?
be there with people from all different countries and just seeing their expression. It was so beautiful. And I think I'll never forget that. I felt like I was feeling a taste of heaven. But I think what I'm hearing you say is we can have a taste of heaven here
Yes.
in our community and with the people that are before us, because there's plenty of diversity right in front of us that we can lean into, but we tend to shy away.
Yeah, and that's what I'm spending my time with. In fact, the book People Are the Wealth actually ends with the end of it is where what I'm doing today begins.
The practice.
Because the idea is having this idea of a global family, and a global family is a foreshadow of the eternal picture, but we can foreshadow that here now. We can foreshadow heaven here on earth. And that's why Jesus prays in John 13 and John 17, may they be one.
Yes.
Because our oneness and our unity is actually Christian witness. People from outside are going to look at us and think, wow, if those guys can get along, there's something there. Whenever I go and travel with people from different cultures, and so we'll be in Germany or somewhere, and walk into a restaurant, and people are looking at us and they're thinking, these guys look very different, they sound very different. How is it that they're so happy together? And people always ask, who are you? How do you know each other?
Yeah.
That's our witness. That's our Christian witness. It literally is. Our unity is actually a winsome witness.
So true. Remember when we were in Germany and we had that Italian dinner?
Oh, yeah. Mario.
And,
Yes. I remember
and
that.
there we were with
Yes.
people from
Oh my
Egypt,
God.
Mexico, Germany. Look, come on. Right? Obviously, Africa.
It's about 18 nations.
18 nations in this group.
Yeah. Cool.
And we're having this dinner and so much fun.
So much
and
fun.
the waiters, they were like captured by, who are these people? They're like United Nations.
End up taking pictures with us.
Yes,
Because
it was so
our
amazing.
unity in diversity
Yes.
is just a beautiful witness to people. And that's what happens. And you can have that within your nuclear family, within your extended family. And so you're creating these concentric circles of connectedness.
Yes.
You start with the nuclear, which is the image of God, but then that image connects with another image, and all of a sudden you get this fuller picture of the gospel. It's so beautiful and so powerful.
Yeah, I love that. You use quite a few African words in your book, and I tried to say them with a Spanish accent.
Good.
But one of them, in page 46, you use this term. I'm going to totally butcher it.
Good.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu, yeah?
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. I am because we are. Tell us about that.
So, yeah, Professor Mbiti, who is a great professor, coined that whole term of Ubuntu. It means that there's no self-made person. I am because we are. And because we are, therefore I am. Which means, and this is a very African context thing, where there's never been a self-made person. Not a single one. Here's an example. When I came to time to go for my education, my dad tells me we don't have the money, but we have the people. Okay? We don't have the money, but we have the people. So on Sunday afternoon after church, we're going to gather with the people and we're going to ask them to all contribute towards the education. Okay? They paid, they collected whatever they had. Now try that in America. Say, hey, can you call my friends to send my kids to college?
Wait, when you do that with weddings and memorials?
Memorial and everything.
It's beautiful.
And so I got money for one term's fees and one-way ticket to India. Okay? And they said, God bless you. You've got enough money for one term. You don't have to worry about the next. God has provided for one term and He's provided for one ticket.
You can trust Him with the rest.
But guess what? Because of that, I've never forgotten my education doesn't belong to me. My education doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my community because they sent me to school. In fact, if any of the people were walking around, they'd say, hey, we just sent our son to school.
Yeah.
Our son, not my son. Our son to school. That's a concept of Ubuntu. It's saying that we are better off as we, not me, and we all contribute to each other's wellness. And therefore, insurance was actually a hard business in Kenya because you insure each other.
Yeah, you took care of each
Because many
other.
people can't afford it. Actually, the insurance business is actually really tough in most global countries because
It's a waste of money anyway.
it's a waste of money and it's expensive.
Yes.
When you can just live your life. So every single day, I can tell you, every single day I'll get a WhatsApp about somebody who's raising money because somebody passed. Somebody's doing a wedding, somebody's doing, something, and you all contribute, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much it is. You will give your shilling, you give not equally, but you give equitably.
Yeah.
I have $1, somebody has 10, we pull together.
Does it get hard though? I mean, I got to believe that someone's always getting married. Someone's, you could be putting out money every single day. Does it ever get to a place where like, oh my goodness, I can't do this?
What?
Or is it just so
Maybe
ingrained?
In some ways it might, but I've never seen it, especially in the older generation, maybe the younger generation. But my mom's generation, she will always contribute to whatever she's invited into and people within her circles of influence.
Yes.
And because it's inherently meaning that my day is today, yours will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we live with, together we have a whole lot. Alone, I don't have enough.
Yes.
But together we have something that is actually much more conclusive. So I remember when my dad passed on and people are doing a vigil every night. One of the guys around the area was drunk and walking around, just drunk and singing. And then he goes like, how come all the people are gathered? And he hears, oh, the pastor died. Like, oh, the pastor died. I'm so sorry. And he had 10 shillings and he gave 10 shillings.
Wow.
I mean, the guy just was like, he's drunk. He's super drunk. He's,
Just off on his own.
But he was like, here's my 10 shillings.
Yeah.
And you go like, it's an ethos. It's the way it's not a burden. It's actually a blessing.
Yeah.
Kayleigh, maybe we should do that with our smoothie family.
Right?
Start an Ubuntu practice.
She's getting it. She's getting it down.
Ubuntu.
Well, it reminds me too of when we read, I think it was The Myth of Normal we read, and it talked about, and it talked about community. It was one area that we really like read over that book where it just is such an awareness that the United States doesn't know how to do community well.
Yes.
Truly, they do not. And so there's always, it's very like siloed independent, and you do it on your own and you figure it out on your own. And The Myth of Normal really had all this study and research to show that the community cultures who really said like, we are all doing this together, we all support one another, they have better outcomes overall, because you really feel like no matter what happens, if I fall, someone will be there to kind of help me lift back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, and that's it's a global world has that ethos.
Yeah.
But I think even the Western world has it. If you think about it, when C.S. Lewis wrote The Four Loves, he talks about his relationship with his three friends, Jack, Charles, and Ronald. And he says, Jack, Charles, and Ronald and I lived together. We were friends, and then one of them, I don't know which one died, Ronald or Jack, one of them died. And he said, okay, now that Ronald is gone, I have more time for the other person. And then they realized over time that there was a part of Jack and Charles that only Ronald could bring out. So when you lost Ronald, you lost a part of Jack and you lost a part of Charles.
Wow.
Isn't that just a beautiful concept?
That is incredible.
It's the idea that there's no one person that is able to pull out or to draw out the whole person in another human being.
Yeah.
Meaning that even for you to get to your fullest self, you need your daughter, you need your grandchildren, you need Jim, you need me, we need each other, you need our global partners. That's what so for you to be your fullest self, you need other people to draw you out.
That is powerful.
Isn't that beautiful?
What a
That's powerful.
Very good.
So you'll never fully discover yourself until your other people are able to draw you out, and then you're able to draw other people out. Again, belonging, being known, being valued, and we need each other. So it's a powerful concept, and not only the global South can get it, because if C.S. Lewis could talk about it, in Europe, that means that we've got a sense of it, and we know it. We know it inherently. When we just don't accept it or hold it with the high value that it is, but we know it innately that anything. Think about it. How many times do you worship by yourself, singing out loud? Not as much. Because it's hard to sing by yourself. But how many times do you go to church and worship with other people?
Right.
A lot of times. Why? Because worshiping with others fulfills the enjoyment of what you're enjoying. So when you enjoy God together, the more you are, the more you're enjoying God even more.
Yeah.
Because now we are together enjoying God together. And that's why we worship together in community, because it fulfills the enjoyment of whatever we're enjoying. And that's true too with food. If you have a good steak, what do? You tell somebody else. You don't just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the essence of that communal aspect. And so it's not just the global world and the global South holds a high ethos of it. I think even Westerners can or get it conceptually, but they just don't practice it as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do see it shifting, especially within the church, because I think we really recognize the importance of community. But it is always, to me, like reading this book just was like, man, there's so many aspects of it that we could really learn from in such a beautiful way. We were just talking about this, that there's me and my husband love to host dinners, but it's like, come as you are, like show up in sweatpants, no makeup on, life can be chaotic, and let's just enjoy a meal. And I actually had one of my friends reach out to me about it. One of them that comes over every month. We have a dinner every month. And she was like, thank you for just showing up as a friend in every season without questions, without making me feel like I need to be somebody else. Yes. And it was so great, because obviously I didn't go in being like, I'm going to do this, right? But it just was like, that is me and my husband's heart posture of, we just are, and so just let's all be together. And I think it's a beautiful gift that we can do that. But I think I would love that was something that was even more integrated, that it was like even how we showed up in church or showed up in community groups, that it was a place where people did show up just authentically real.
Yeah, man, I affirm you for that, because that's really powerful. And that's a gospel embodied, because the gospel is not just what is said, it's how it's embodied. In fact, the church grew because of an embodied mission, not a proclaimed mission.
Yeah.
It grew because of embodied. And so what you guys are doing is embodying community out of beauty, not out of duty. I still remember it was 2009. I was broke and I was doing some laundry. I went to the laundromat to do some laundry, and I found $18 in my pocket, in one of my pants pocket. And I said, wow, I have $18. That's the last money I have. I have a quarter tank of gas. That means I can go to church tomorrow and come back. I was working at Miners, living in Stanton. And I said, man, what a blessing. Now I wouldn't do this, but then I did it. What a blessing. I have $18. So I said, I'm going to go to Jack's Market, which is in Anaheim, which used to have a ton of good meat. And I just bought $18 worth of meat and stuff. And then I called friends and I said, hey, we're coming to have a dinner. And it's going to call No Reason Dinner. It's a no reason barbecue. Yeah. Come whenever, bring whoever, leave whenever. Because everything I went to before that in America was come at this time, look like this, dressed up, how I bring this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. I feel dutiful.
Yeah.
Like I feel, oh my gosh, I might even do it wrong.
Yeah.
I might show up wrong. And I just said, hey, lower all the inhibitions.
Yeah.
Come whenever, bring whoever, drink. And we had the best time. Do you know that practice that I had, in 2008 or 2009, has now morphed into this thing where I do a fire pit every night on Sundays when I'm home. Now it's a little different because the kind of stakes we're having are very different than what we used to have then. But it was the idea of just come as you are. Come, lower inhibitions. You come out of the beauty of it, not feeling dutiful. I don't want anybody coming to the fire pit out of duty.
Yeah.
I don't. I just want them to say, hey, I really love when I'm going there because I feel known. I get a sense of belonging. I get to laugh, or I get to share hard things. Just come as you are. And that's the beauty of the gospel when it's embodied in a way that you come out of it, out of the beauty of it and not duty.
Yeah.
We've put a lot of burdens on people. Lower it, just let them come and eat, let them come and sometimes we might not even say anything significant, but they'll walk out of there feeling significant.
Feel seen and loved.
Yeah.
What a beautiful, I was going to take us towards a practice, but you just did. You took us towards an invitation. Here's something we can do. But I wondered, Christian, as we close, I have two things I want to ask. One is, you're under your title. I'm going to see if I can say it.
Say it.
Andu nio iundu. Indo.
Okay, now
how do you say it? How do you say it?
The way you say it is adonioido.
Oh,
wow.
Ado.
She even matched the volume and
What does that mean?
Adonioido.
Ado nio ido.
People are the wealth.
I love that.
So it's a Kikuyu proverb that Dad would say, son, money will make you rich. It will never make you wealthy, because you're only as wealthy as the people you have around you, because adonioido, people are the wealth.
I love that. And then you have a stool.
Yes.
Proclamation, demonstration, and community. Right? Is that what they represent?
Yes, absolutely.
Which you talk about in the book. And I also love that inside the book, in between each of the chapters, is this beautiful picture of African community.
Yes.
And it's the same picture every time.
Yes.
And I actually looked forward to seeing it again every time. It just reminded me, place me in a position to learn from something that's very different than my context, and know that there's something beautiful in it for me. So thank you for creating such a beautiful book.
Thank you for even highlighting the stool, because that probably would have made my dad cry, because it would have been more significant for him to see, oh, there's a three-legged stool. And immediately as a Kikuyu, you know what that means. Then the picture at the back is a picture of Kikuyu people sitting under a mogumo tree, which is a sacred tree, facing Mount Kenya, where they worshipped.
Oh,
So it literally is. And that's what I wanted, even like the painting.
And they're sitting in the stools.
Absolutely. And it was created by a painter in Kenya. And so in fact, I'm going to be using that as that painting. I want other people to just get it and to use it because it shows you, there's such deep concepts in it, whether it's a mountain, Mount Kirinyaga, which I talk about in the book, and then the Mugumo tree, where it was a sacred tree. Then they're sitting on the three-legged stool. So the people on the painting are sitting on a three-legged stool, which showed there's none of us that is better than all of us together. You know, we are all the same. Even the chief would sit on the same kind of stool because they're saying we are going to be one and we're going to hold on to the three aspects of the three-legged stool in Kikuyu culture, which is hard work, community, and it was ancestral worship or the worship of the divine. You know, so that's what the three-legged stool symbolizes. So there's so many symbolisms in that, and so I'm so glad. I feel known. I feel known by you even bringing that up.
You know, you mentioned your dad.
Yes.
And he's no longer with us.
Yes.
He's with the Lord.
Yes.
And he obviously, you mentioned him in the book as well.
Yes.
And I know this is emotional for
It
you
is.
that the book has come out.
It is.
And that he can't hold it in his hands.
Yes.
But I'm sure your dad, if he were here, he'd be so proud of you. He'd be throwing a big party.
I know.
To celebrate you.
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Thank you so much.
It's
I
really
appreciate
cool.
that. I stand in awe of God's doing, and I'm grateful that I got the time that I had with my dad. I miss him dearly. And you're right. He'd be so proud. I would have wanted to just see him and just say, Dad, we did it, you know, and it's we.
Yes.
You know, we did it together.
That's
so
right.
Thank you.
You are because
Thank you.
we
I
are,
am
right?
because we are.
I am because we are.
Yeah,
we are because
because we are. I am.
Okay, say that again. I want to say it right.
I am because we are. And because we are, therefore I am.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you for joining us today. I hope you go out to Amazon or wherever books are sold and pick up your copy of this book. Share it with your friends. I mean, it's a great book to read and then have a group conversation about. And remember, even though it does in many ways talks about how the church engages in global missions, this relates to your relationships at home, at work, in your community. You can apply this to every relationship. So thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe so that you don't miss all the things that we try to offer you to bless you. God bless you.